Welcome to another episode of Rugby After Hours. I'm your host, Johnnie Beattie. We've reached the semi-final stage of the Rugby World Cup here in France. To digest the quarterfinals and look back on some truly epic games, I'm delighted to be joined by Jimmy Gopperth, Ryan Wilson and Simon Shaw. Boys, be honest, it's been a marathon, but how are we? Shawsy?
I'm good. I've had about 4 hours off, so I'm refreshed. I'm ready for the next event, the next dinner, the next match. It's been a relentless few weeks, but I'm battle hardened, ready for the next show.
You're sturdy. Wilson, you're pretty much in the same boat.
No, I just want to go home. I just want to be back at home with the kids.
A cuddle.
Yeah. Just I'm fed up of it. I've babysat Nico Matawalu for the last 4 days in Marseille. The hardest job of my life. Obviously, I turned up to the game yesterday with my Fijian jersey on, with my Fijian soul, and it was a tough old day for the Fijians yesterday. And then, looking after that boy afterwards. 6 a.m. carver session in the Fijian hotel this morning. It was pretty brutal.
Good going. And Jimmy, mate, you must be fresh. You're the only sane one here. But
yeah.
buzzing? You must be buzzing, mate, after the weekend and the result.
Oh, mate, yeah, I am, to be honest. It was a really good game, and I think I was watching it with a bunch of Kiwis having a few beers, and I don't think we've ever celebrated for an All Blacks game like that before. So, yeah, to be fair, I'm pretty ecstatic from their win, and just interested to see how the rest of the World Cup's going to go now.
Just how impressed were you with their performance? Because maybe slight undertones of we didn't know what was going to happen with ABs, what kind of team they were going to turn up with, but they've arrived now, surely. They're looking good.
Yeah, they are. I was watching the game. I was a bit thrown of how they were defending. They were really, really soft on the edges and just sort of inviting Ireland to go there. I think that was a tactic. And then they really came off the line and just sort of battered them. But to go, was it 37 phases at the end and no penalties? With Ireland just banging on the door. It was pretty impressive, and it was a hell of a test match. I just hope now the semi-finals can live up to those kind of standards.
I love it though, eh? You just knew the All Blacks were going to do it. You just knew they were going to do it. Like everyone said they've flown in under the radar. They absolutely hammered the Italians 94-0 or something, was it? And that's not flying in under the radar.
Context though, they got absolutely smashed by South Africa by 30-40, and everyone was like, we don't know what's going on. And they've just shown us.
But they were hitting their straps at the right time. The Irish can't deal with quarterfinals.
There's enough World Cup winners in that squad though, and there's enough guys that you've seen it with South Africa last night. You got winners in your squad, and it just when the pressure gets. So, this is massive pressure for those guys. And when it comes to those sort of key moments, those big guys really stood up and showed what it means to be a top line player in a massive situation.
Do you think there was a complete change in tactics from the first game, or because the difference between New Zealand in the first game and now is it's crazy. They're doing things that in that first game it's just like how many times they kick the ball. I've never seen a New Zealand side kick the ball so much, and it seemed like Joe Schmidt had the call on that particular game, and it was almost like a bunch of senior players going, we don't play that way. We don't want to play that way. Can we go back to what we do best?
Yeah, but don't forget Joe Schmidt was with Ireland for how many years? He knows a lot of those players inside out, and I think you could see All Blacks went really hard at breakdowns.
But after being soft on the edge, and that's what threw them off, because everyone's used to going hard at
it was like a false sense. Yeah. Let them get edge. Let Johnny and them do the wraparounds and take the edge, and is that false sense of we're making yards, and then just smack the breakdown. Yeah. I think they lured them into a trap. Pretty smart.
They're incredible, super physical as well. Shawsy, South Africa now face England in the semis, a repeat of the 2019 final. Let's look back quickly. England against Fiji, how impressed were you with their performance and the fact they've made it to the
Fiji's
semis?
Or England's?
England's, mate.
I think impressed is probably the wrong word. Happy they got through that test match. Obviously, Fiji have been tricky for a lot of teams in this World Cup, apart from Portugal. But I'm just most worried about the fact that when England have played opposition that have good, strong runners that can beat men one-on-one, they've looked fragile in defence, and that doesn't bode well when you're about to play South Africa with the extraordinary runners that they've got and the physicality they've got. So I mean, I just hope they can shore up the defence, because if not, we don't stand much chance. But then again, semi-final in a World Cup.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who
No,
knows? Just,
no,
you
we know.
don't-
We know.
Hey,
I'm trying to make it interesting.
so we had Ireland, New Zealand, which would have been worthy of a semi-final. France, South Africa as well. Two huge sides out. South Africa go through. Ryan, what did you make of the France-South Africa game?
The South Africans, for me, like, they just pull everything out the bag, don't they? Like, when you want to. It was pretty much. It was like a semi-final, wasn't it? And they're taking scrums or marks in the 22. Like, what's that? That's playing head games. That's Rassie trying to get in the heads, going, yeah, we'll take a mark and we'll take the scrum. And everyone's going, hold on a minute, is that even a rule? Can you do that? Of course you can, but just no one does it because it makes no sense. And then they get that penalty, and suddenly they're into the French's heads. It was incredible. Like little 5-metre tap moves. Like in a big game like that, the little tap moves that they've got going on, just the way they managed the bench, Faf de Klerk, Pollard coming on and closing out the game. Everyone said, they should have been starting, but I think they're smart though. They bring Pollard on, he's got a good boot on him, and that's how South Africa always win their test
Have you
matches.
seen the stats from that game?
France had all the possession, all the territory, they had everything.
It's insane. It's like, there's no way you'd read the stats and say South Africa won by 1 point. It's just...
But it was the same for Ireland, New Zealand. Yeah. So it was big defensive performances. But what's weird as well is, I think they're a different breed. Like, mentally, to go to Stade de France, 80,000 people, everyone bang. But that's it. There's not many other countries, and they do love it. And, like, fair play to them to go, to dominate like that, nick the game by a point. Like, not dominate the game, but incredible. Right, boys. First game of the evening. Shawsy, you look delighted about this. It's time to play Agree or Disagree. So, boys, you've each got your paddle, thumbs up, thumbs down. We're going to give you some statements from World Rugby Studios. You ready?
Yeah.
Go, rapid fire. New Zealand are now favourites to win the World Cup. Jimmy, mate.
That's interesting. Hold on a minute. What's going on here?
I know.
Favourites for me, but for the bookies and everything, I think South Africa is still going to be hot favourites. Reigning world champions.
Even before we get there, do you reckon the ABs have got to be wary of Argentina? Like, they've lost to Argentina in New Zealand recently.
Of course they do. Semi-finals or anything. Everyone's already writing Argentina off, but it's semi-finals. Anything can happen. They can pull a rabbit out of the hat. You never know. Look, I'm going to back New Zealand all the way, 100%. But you got to be wary of them. It's a one-off game. Anything can happen.
You two, you said gone against the bookies' favourite. Bookies' favourite is South Africa at the minute, but you've gone ABs. Why do you reckon the ABs are going to go on to win?
I'm a big believer in entering into competition and the competition getting harder, tougher, and it's the toughest that wins out the day. But the fact of the matter is, this is like heavyweight boxing week in, week out. For South Africa, they've had some absolute monumental tests up until now. Do they have enough in them to go another 2 stages? I mean, physically, yes, you'd argue yes, but mentally, do they? Probably yes as well. But I'm just thinking New Zealand have got the slightly easier route to the final, and they arrive fresher, and they do a job.
Okay, next one. Farrell should remain at 10 for England in the semis against South Africa. Bizarrely, before you go as well, he was booed. I couldn't believe that. As his face came up and the team was announced in stadium, he got a boo off the crowd. What do you reckon? Should he remain at 10 for the semis against South Africa? Unanimous. Jimmy, stand off, you know the gig well. Why?
I think just the physicality part of it. Yes, I think the only way England will win is by playing quick. And as Farrell or Ford probably adds that more, but physicality is going to be number one. If you give them easy route in, they're just going to get in behind you and absolutely demo you and get in quick ball. And so I think he'll stay there. But I would bring Ford on a little bit earlier. He didn't even come on last week. Just you need to break the game up against South Africa. You can't stay into that physical battle for the whole 80 minutes because you're not coming out top.
Wilson, anything to add? Your old tunnel mate?
I think with Marcus Smith at 15, then you can keep Owen Farron at 10.
You're not going to do that.
You don't think Marcus Smith's
Absolutely
over 15?
not. Not against. No way.
Who do you think's going in? Freddie Stewart?
Freddie Stewart, 100%.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
I'm going against it. I reckon Marcus Smith's going to start at 15.
But given the aerial bombardment they gave France, you want safe hands at the back.
Freddie
Surely.
Stewart's not been that safe though, has he? I thought he was one of the best players coming.
He's a foot taller, which helps.
I know that does help, but when you're dropping him at greasy pill, he's not been that safe this World Cup, has he? Freddie Stewart, he's not been great.
Yeah, but I think their temperatures drop, so that ball's not going to be as slippery.
You're right, and it's a lot colder up in Paris. So there we have it. Okay, I'll change it. I'll go back to Freddie Stewart. Marcus Smith at 15.
Argentina have the best fans at the Rugby World Cup. Unanimous again. What have you seen that you like, Shawsy?
I just think the diversity. I think I was having this conversation, and this is, we could go on for hours about the supporters of rugby, the demographic. It's not great, and if we want to grow the game, we've got to grow it to a younger audience, a more diverse audience. And if you look around the stadiums when Argentina play, they've got that. It's fantastic to see entire families, women, old men, young men, anything in between. It's brilliant, and they're vocal, incredibly vocal. I mean, they were the 16th man for Argentina the other day, and all more for it.
I was at the Argentina-Wales game, and it was so good. Like, they're giving it big time. They absolutely love it. Like, they love a party. The Argentinians were class, and
if you're watching from the outside, obviously you want games like the quarterfinals we've seen, but you also want to be there as a fan. Why do you want to be there? Well, you want to be there for the match, but the atmosphere obviously is a massive part of that. And if you're playing in front of a crowd that sort of clap politely or just occasionally get out their seats.
British rugby. British rugby is very polite. It's click and clap.
I'll stay on my couch. But if you're seeing that from your TV and go, I want to be there.
They've got so many songs. They've got so many different songs. It was ridiculous. Like every 2 seconds, they just come up with another one, and you can tell it was just
there should be a song for every country.
Yeah, they've got to try and grow something like that, because you get this same old swing low. Here we go again.
It's gone. But then also, how much of an impact that has on performance. So if you're the Argentinian boys on the field and you've got that bouncing,
immense.
Versus if you're at Twickenham, sometimes it's quite quiet. Like, we've all been part of huge atmospheres.
That's what you want
it gives you.
It's unbelievable. Like, my local club just in Provence, we haven't got a massive crowd, but they're singing and drums and all going the whole game. It's unbelievable. It does give you an extra bit as a player.
Good accent, by the way. Provence.
Straight in.
Be practicing.
And on that game, Wales-Argentina, like, you were there, what did you make of the performance? Wales a bit of an off day, or were Argentina just too hot?
I think Argentina finally played a little bit of rugby. They've not been very good through the tournament, and like you said, all you need to do is turn up on a quarterfinal or semi-final knockout rugby, and they did that.
I also think, and I'm not condoning violence in our game, but when that little fracas happened, that sort of changed the tone of the game, and then Argentinians suddenly looked bigger and stronger and nastier.
That was like the Fijians. Like, they're never like that. But they had the bit between their teeth yesterday against England, and like, you'd never see them like confrontational like that. And they just want it. That picture of Bottia and it's like Mike Tyson going for it.
I wouldn't be going up. I wouldn't be throwing my
Nowhere near it. But you know what I mean? That sort of stuff. Like, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Ireland will now never break the quarterfinals curse. With Sexton, Earls and company retiring, what's next for Ireland? Jimmy, you know these boys really well. You played in Leinster. You know them better than anyone, really.
Look, I don't think I've got no, because I think they'll develop, they'll learn from this. There's a lot of youngsters in that group now, and there's a lot of guys coming through the academies and through that are not here at the World Cup, that are very, very good players, and will step into those guys that you've mentioned who are retiring, step into their shoes and sort of grow from this opportunity. And they're a bloody good team, and they're good coaches. I see them, being top of the sort of tree for a long time. They just got to get over that hurdle, but they'll get another chance, and I think they'll be there or thereabouts.
Okay, last one, fellas. South Africa beating France in the quarterfinals is the most impressive victory at this year's World Cup so far. So does it top the All Blacks beating Ireland, Ireland beating South Africa, or even Portugal beating Fiji? South Africa beating France at home in Paris, was that the biggest win so far? Shorzy?
No, look, as I said before, the stats show that France should have won that game every week. It still astounds me that they didn't win that game. I was genuinely gutted for the French because they had the belief, they have all the players necessary to go all the way, and they've been sucker punched by South Africa. I don't know whether it would have changed things, but I just at times yesterday I just felt when France had scored, it was almost like let's spend the next 10 minutes doing all, like doing nothing, like really slowing the game down, because it's like that. You know, when you score in football, you're most vulnerable straight after you scored. It felt that way, and you just sort of almost needed to be playing really negative rugby for 5 minutes, take the sting out of the South Africans before you then go and try and do something again. Because every single time they scored, South Africa seemed to come back and with a swathe and hit them with a sucker punch.
And Ryan, you disagree?
I disagree because I think, listen, both games were incredible, but look at the Irish, the way they've been going. After watching them absolutely demolish Scotland, you're going, these boys are something else. And then the All Blacks just come in and do what they did. I thought it was a brilliant show. And Ireland have been at the top for so long now, just to be knocked off their perch, so close to a final by the All Blacks. It was just, I thought it was pretty incredible.
Well, I thought you were going to go for a Fijian win, but appreciate the diversity, different opinions. Our next section is going to be Reddit and Weep. Right, we've been looking through Rugby Union Reddit for the past week through the forum. We've got the best ones to stick to you. First one, New Zealand. Was that the most vintage All Black performance we've seen in years? I'm still in a bit of shock as I can't remember the last time I've seen the boys play like that. How impressed have you been with their ability to grow and learn, given that first game against France, what we talked about? And have New Zealand surpassed all expectations that they had pre-tournament?
100%. It was what we grew up watching, and what we've become to know as the All Blacks is that relentless, ruthless team that will just work for each other, and it was pretty awesome to watch. They've definitely been growing this tournament, and they're ready for the top end of the stages.
Ardy Surveyor,
unbelievable.
Richie Monga,
but Sam Cane.
I thought he was man of the match.
He's unbelievable, and sometimes you don't see him, but he just works his ass off, and he came back and done a big hit on someone from behind. I can't remember who it was, but just the work rate of him just does not stop. True seven, just a great sevens performance.
England. I have to say, England's discipline in those final minutes of defending and not coughing up a penalty should be applauded. So many times England have conceded a silly penalty in that same situation. England's defence was much improved. Long may it continue. How impressed were you with what you saw and how England saw at the end of that game?
Well, the question would be, could they do what New Zealand did against Ireland and defend 37 phases without a penalty? And I don't think they could. So if that's what it's going to take to win a World Cup, or even a quarterfinal in a World Cup, or back it up in semi-final, I'm afraid I can't see that.
So would
the one, as I said before, I think it's the one, the really disappointing thing for me has been, you could look at whether they've managed to string, enough phase play together or enough scoring chances, all those sorts of things, but defence is, you just can't afford to have a leaky defence. And for me, that's been the most disappointing thing about England.
And so would you say getting to semi would be a success from where they were pre-tournament?
Well, yeah, from where they were pre-tournament, yeah. But people will only remember it if you go all the way, at least get to the final.
France. Dupont is still only 26, Intermac 24, Movaka 26, Ramos 28. Most of them will still be eligible for the next World Cup and are constantly getting stronger. This isn't our peak. Do you think this was France's golden generation and their chance to win this World Cup, or do you think they've still got a chip in a chair for the next cycle?
Look, they are in a sort of golden era though, aren't they? But showing those ages, they've got a lot more rugby in them. And I think the way the rugby in the whole of France at the moment is really on top of, throughout the world. It's probably the best place to play at the moment. It's getting, it's really developing some of those youngsters coming through, and I think they'll they'll be around for a lot longer than we us Kiwis probably like, but they're going to be at the top, 100%.
Look, the fact of the matter is, as Jimmy said, it's probably the strongest league in the world at the moment. And if you look, the French teams have been doing these posts on Instagram where they show all the players that they've got involved in the World Cup. And I'd say it's probably 90% of all the players in this World Cup are playing in either the top 14 or the Pro de Deux. So that's like hugely competitive with excellent players throughout. So if you can, get a French group from that, they're going to be pretty damn good. And they'll continue to be pretty damn good. And they've won the under-20s, 23s World Cup a couple of years running. Mm-hmm. So that generation is still relevant and will be in the next World Cup.
Cool. Rugby wins. Just been told by my wife that if I say rugby is winning one more time, I'm going to get a slap. How good has this tournament been for rugby as a sport in general?
It's been incredible. It has been amazing. I've been down there a couple of times now. Like the way everyone moaned about the group. Well, Scotland moaned about the group stages. We did, but it was pretty tough. But those quarterfinals at the weekend, all four of them were just amazing. All four quarterfinals really impressed, and that's been the most exciting thing about it. Is like you've got those, and now we've got two big ones to come next week, leading into a massive New Zealand and South Africa final. It's been a good tournament.
Another great look into the Reddit forum. Make sure you keep sending your thoughts in and we'll share them with our guests on a week-to-week basis. Let's take a look now at some of the teams that have left us at this stage of the competition. Some outstanding rugby played. Boys, which side are you most disappointed not to see through to the semis?
Fiji, I think. Just the way they play, but the people, their whole, the villagers back at home, how good would it have been for the whole country? We've seen it in South Africa when they won the World Cup, how it changes people back home. And I just love the way they play and the people they are. So, sorry, England.
I'm exactly the same. Tosso Vitti. Nalangu Ryan Wilsoni. My name is Ron Wilson. They literally the best people on earth. And after spending last night with them and this morning till the early hours,
and tonight,
and tonight, and the next few days, I probably won't go home. Just the best people on earth, and when you genuinely talk to them about why they're doing it and what they're doing it for, you know how important it is to them back home and what it does to the people back in Fiji. It's pretty special, so absolutely gutted. And what made it even worse was it was against England that they lost.
Shawsy?
I'd say France. I've lived it for the last 12 years. I've seen how confident they've become over the years, and the players they've got at the moment are exceptional. To see them lose the way they did last night, having played such amazing, attractive, attacking rugby, which everyone wants to see, still come out of the losers is pretty heartbreaking for them. So, yeah.
The last segment of the show, Fantasy Wall. There's been 400,000 people sign up for this game. Few different rules from the quarters to semis. We'll talk you through them, but they need your advice. A rule change as well. For the semis, players back home can now select up to 5 players per nation. So I'll take you through it and you can give us your opinions. The first game, New Zealand, Argentina. 2 players, Santiago Carreras and Richie Mo'unga. I'm going to ask you, in your fantasy team, who you starting and who you benching and why? Santiago Carreras, 33 points against Wales, 89 points in total, a value of 9.5. Or Richie Mo'unga, 46 points against Ireland, 186 points in total, and a value of 13. Who are you benching in your fantasy team and who are you starting and why? Coming to you, mate.
That's pretty obvious. Richie will start. He'll run the cutter and he'll probably nip in for a few tries and he'll See,
there you
the
go.
wind is
It's
telling me
It's been
right
made
now.
for you.
The gods,
The gods
have
have
spoken.
made the decision right there. Good.
Agree, disagree? Any difference in opinion?
Completely agree. He ran the game.
Okay.
He's outstanding.
So we're benching Santi. And Richie is getting a start. Next hookers, you got Julian Montoya from Argentina or Cody Taylor for New Zealand. Julian Montoya, skipper, 37 points against Wales, 157 points in total, a value of 7.5, gets on the end of a lot of tries as well. Or Cody Taylor, 20 points against Ireland, 124 points in total, and a value of 9.5.
Yeah, I'm going Montoya
Julian.
to start. I think that's possibly where they're going to look to score their points up front. Driving maul, he'll be on the end of it. He'll score some points. All good.
Yeah, exactly
playing
what
that too,
I
Jimmy?
thought.
I agree. I played with him last year. He's a hell of a bloke as well. And he's a turnover king. So I'm sure in the fantasy world you get a few points for turnovers.
Right, next. This is the big one, the clash. Manu Tuilagi, 32 points in the win over Fiji, 93 points in total, a value of 7.5. Or Damien Delende, South African centre, 45 points in the win over France, 83 points in total, and a value of 9. That is the clash of the Titans, boys. Two absolute units. Who are you benching?
I'm
And who are you
benching-
starting?
I'm benching Tuilagi, not because I don't believe in him, but I just don't think he's going to get enough ball. He's their number one threat. England's number one threat. Has played, a few games back to back now, but just doesn't get the ball enough for me. So, yeah, that's my reason.
Yeah, I agree. Delenda, he was outstanding last night. He was just everywhere, defensively, attacking wise. 100%, he will get the start.
I'm Delende as well. Just the way that the Springboks are going at the moment, and like you said, Shawsey, England are going to struggle a bit. So Delende for me.
Last one, fellas, at hooker. You've got Jamie George.
It's a big head.
That's a big Swede. Or you got Mbonambi from South Africa.
Give him an extra magnet.
Jamie George, 30 points against Fiji, 147 points in total, and a value of 10. Mbonambi, 25 points against France, 97 points in total, and a value of 9.5. Shawsey?
It's the toughest of the lot. I'm going to go George to start.
Why so?
I've absolutely no idea. It's just a 50-50 call.
Mbonambi, man of the match as well against France, was he not?
Was he?
Jamie George might get a bit more game time.
I was
Does
just
that make
thinking
a
that the
difference?
bomb
'Cause,
squad will
that
come, so he'll come off.
He'll get pulled at 45 if he's starting. So you're going to get more time with Jamie George on there, eh? So Mbonambi on the pine.
Well, I said that last week about Faf de Klerk, and he actually didn't even start, so he's got that bit wrong.
There you have it. Those are your picks for the Rugby World Cup fantasy round for the semi-finals. Before we go, I'd like to get your winners and losers for the semi-finals. How are each of these games going to go and why? Shawsey, going to save you for last. Thanks. Jimmy?
New Zealand will win by 15, I think. I think they'll really turn up. And South Africa, I think it's going to be a tough day for England. I really do. It could be something about 20 odd points.
Do you reckon?
I think it could be. So New Zealand, South Africa final. Let's have it.
Exactly the same. New Zealand definitely too strong for Argentina. I think they'll. I don't think they'll pull away too much. I think they'll save it a little bit for the final, and they'll just do enough to beat the Argentinians. The Argentinians will stand the fight for a little while. So All Blacks to pull through that one, and exactly the same. I think South Africa by 21, just to make it a little bit more.
Shawsey, any difference?
Same, I'm afraid. I don't see. I mean, we've talked about the. You guys have talked about the draw. I'm sure that the weaker side of the draw, Argentina and England come from that side, and I just don't see them having the strength or the confidence to beat either of these sides on the big day. So New Zealand, South Africa in the final.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much. Shawsey, Ryan, Jimmy, thank you for joining us. That was another episode of Rugby After Hours. Don't forget you can catch up on all your action on Rugby Pass TV, and we will catch you in Paris next week.